Suddenly Fluttershy, written by Nihim, Chapter 2, Awakening. You know how there's always that one guy who takes a joke too far? Well, you never knew the reality of all things is that guy. Sitting on the edge of your bed, you sigh and rest your head in your hands. The past few minutes were enough to wake you back up at first, but now that the adrenaline wore off, you're not so awake anymore. Your nightstand clock shows the time to be 2:54 a.m. You went to sleep around midnight, so this means you've gotten maybe 2.5 hours of sleep. This kind of thing would be a dream come true for some people, but the situation you find yourself in right now isn't so pleasant. First contact is gonna be a bit, that's for sure. From Fluttershy's perspective, she's going to wake up in an unfamiliar place with some strange monster looming over her. In addition to that, you get the pleasure of having to introduce yourself to the most science-skittish pony of the 6 protagonists. Sighing again, you let your arms fall back down to your lap and look over to the crate resting at her feet. The mirror inside remains curled up, chest gently expanding with each breath she takes. That doesn't look too comfortable. I guess I should probably get you out of there. You kind of hope that the sound of your voice would be enough to spark some form of awareness in her. But just as you expected, Fluttershy remains knocked out. You might as well get her out of that crate while she's still unwell. The only thing that would have been more awkward than an inevitable first conversation would be for her to wake up in your arms. Squatting down, you slide your hands under the small equine and create a hole in her arms. Lifting her is not all that hard. She probably weighs about as much as a small to medium-sized dog. Luckily for you, she doesn't wake up as you gently place her on her unmade bed and drape the covers over her up to just under her head. If that outright, resume pondering your current predicament. What kind of preparations should you make for the first encounter? Food might be a good start. You have something decently vegetarian around here somewhere. Stepping out of the door and back into the rest of the house, you make your way to the kitchen. Compared to the heat of your bedroom, the cold air of the rest of the house chills you to the bone. You'll have to be fast and ready in your fridge. Rest you will become a human ice sculpture. There really isn't much in here in terms of fruits or vegetables, but that shouldn't be hard to walk around. After a few minutes of scouting around, you settle on just getting some peanut butter, some bread, and a banana to make a sandwich. You finish the meal, making process by filling a glass with water and bringing it all back to your bedroom. Finding some open space on your computer desk, you set down the plate and glass and turn to Fluttershy. What else should you do? You can't really think of anything right now, and you still feel like that you could fall asleep standing up. Obviously, you can't share a bed together this early in your relationship. Normally you sleep on the couch. If your fucking window wasn't broken. Oh well, might as well just browse the web again. Got to do something right. Perhaps you'll check back on the thread from earlier. Maybe since you're lucky enough to have something like this happen to you, you'll be lucky enough to get some answers. You'll fall back onto your desk chair and wake your computer back up. Perhaps this is just the start on an inquiring invasion, and the others on the same thread, having their houses damaged by cartoon horses. Speaking of, you'll have to check with your insurance to see if alien invasions are covered in a plan. Can you even sue otherworldly beings for property damage? There'd be no use, even though you're in modern times, and you probably could. Hardly any time passes before you begin to doze off at your desk. The most you're able to do before drifting back off to sleep is open up your web browser and go to the website where you had found the thread before. An unknown amount of time passes before your trance is broken by the sound of murmurs and the rustling of covers from behind you. Groggily lifting your head up from your desk, you turn your seat around and notice the pile of sheets and blankets on your bed gently rustling. This is it. Better make a good impression for humanity, Anon. Fluttershy's head lifts up heavily, blue eyes taking in her unfamiliar surroundings. You say nothing, electing to wait for her to get her bearings straight. Her large eyes slowly begin to focus, pupils changing to the correct size for the current level of light. For a time, Ramirez looks around, trying to figure out what's going on. It isn't until you raise your arm to scratch the back of your head that she seems to notice you. The two of you lock gazes. Only now do you realize it's just a little uncanny having something with such big eyes looking at you. You've never been one to back down from a staring contest for. Silence fills the room while the two of you just gaze into each other's eyes. Nobody blinks. Your gut rumbles a bit, causing a bubble to rise up in your chest. Fluttershy tilts her head slightly, trying to make sense of the situation. The gas hovers up to your throat, the tense situation not slowing it down in the slightest. Without thinking, you push it out through your mouth. Much harder than you need to. The sound that comes out can only be described as the roar of a lion that has just drank a 2-liter bottle of pop. With that, you now also know that ponies might be the only living creatures on this planet with the ability to break the sound barrier without the use of a machine. In what seems like the blink of an eye, the male bolts out from under the covers in response to a mighty display of gaseous power and runs for the closed door. A loud thump echoes through your room, and she decides to run straight into it rather than try to get it open. You can't even remember how much ring power they say that Fluttershy had in that one episode, but holy shit, she was able to move. Well, that certainly could have gone better. But hey, at least you won the staring contest right. You stare at her for a few seconds as she notices the bump on her forehead. Deciding to get the show on the road, decide to try to get her attention. You calmly began to speak. Fluttershy takes notice, turning towards you and scooting up against the door. Stay away, she commands in a shaky voice, pointing one of her pale yellow hooves at you. You should have known that this wouldn't be easy. You would back up, but the desk takes up the rest of the space behind you. Okay, relax. I'm not going to hurt you. You're so making so to keep your body language as unaggressive as possible. Hey, I'm sorry about that. I just had a bad burp. That's uh, but before you can finish, you are interrupted by a royal pitched growl. You jump to your feet when the sound hits your ears. What the hell is that? Shit! Is he transforming? Was this all a clever ruse? Are you going to get eaten and not even have a corpse sweep? These thoughts run through your head in the span of a second, just before they're interrupted by a yellow ball colliding into your torso. You try to scream, but can't. It's too late now. The grip on your body is too tight. You squint your eyes, waiting for the inevitable feeling of teeth sinking into your face. The feeling never comes, for another growl, and the grip tightens. The beast holding onto your body began to shake and emit what could be mistaken as a whimper. Breathing is difficult, and life is slowly turning into suffering. You open your eyes, ready to face your demise. When you look down, you don't see the fast-devouring monster you were expecting. Instead, you see the familiar form of a quivering pony, holding on to you for dear life. Relief washes over you as you come to the realization that your short, uneventful life is not about to come to a painful, bloody end. The growl from earlier sounds out again. This time you're able to tell what it is. It's the sound of hunger, and you're pretty sure that it's not a hunger for delicious human flesh. At least you hope not. Hey, don't be afraid. It's just your stomach. Your attempt to choke out through your compressed rib cage. Some seconds pass before this registers you, and she slowly loosens her grip, then quickly backs up to the middle of the room, where she sees just what she was burying her face into. You get to your knees, deciding that standing will probably cause some intimidation with your height. An idea strikes, and you twist to your decks to grab the food that you made earlier. You must be pretty hungry. Author's note: I technically have this whole story done, but holy hell, I did not expect converting it to prose to be this strenuous on my tiny brain. I'll probably try to make future chapters longer than this.